If this were happening to your heart or your lungs, doctors would warn you immediately. But this affects your confidence. So you don't tell anyone. There's a medical phenomenon that most men don't know exists until it's already happening to them. It's silent, progressive, and often mistaken for aging, but it's not about getting older. It's about what happens when the body stops doing what it was designed to do. And for men, the consequences are far more physical than most realize. Think about a car that sits unused in a garage for months. The battery dies, the tires deflate, rust begins to form. The engine, once powerful, seizes up. Now, apply that same principle to human tissue. When any part of the body stops being used, it doesn't just pause, it deteriorates. Muscles shrink, joints stiffen, and yes, even the most intimate parts of male anatomy are not immune to this biological rule. This process has a name: atrophy by disuse. For men, the absence of sexual activity triggers a cascade of changes that most medical professionals rarely discuss openly. It's not about libido or desire, it's about oxygen. Every erection, whether during sex or during sleep, serves a critical physiological function. It floods the penile tissue with oxygen-rich blood. Without that regular oxygenation, the tissue begins to suffocate. Slowly, quietly, and the damage compounds over time. The penis is made up of smooth muscle and elastic connective tissue. These structures require oxygen to stay healthy and functional. During an erection, blood flow increases dramatically, delivering nutrients and oxygen to every cell. But when erections become infrequent or stop altogether, the tissue enters a state called hypoxia, a medical term for oxygen deprivation. And here's where the real problem begins. Under hypoxic conditions, the body doesn't simply wait for things to improve, it adapts, but not in a good way. The elastic fibers that allow the tissue to expand and contract start to break down. In their place, the body deposits collagen, a rigid structural protein. This is called fibrosis. It's the same process that causes scar tissue to form after an injury, but in this case there's no wound, just absence. And once fibrosis sets in, the tissue loses its flexibility. It becomes stiff, less responsive, and in some cases permanently shortened. This isn't about ego or pleasure anymore, it is about tissue survival. Without regular oxygenation, the elastic fibers are replaced by rigid collagen. It's a process called fibrosis, and once it settles, it is notoriously difficult to reverse. The research is clear. Studies published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine have documented that men who go extended periods without erections, whether due to illness, medication, or abstinence, experience measurable loss in penile length and girth. The tissue literally shrinks, and the longer the period of inactivity, the more severe the atrophy becomes. What starts as a temporary lull can become a permanent structural change. This isn't speculation, it's documented pathology. The medical literature shows that even short periods of reduced erectile activity can begin the process of tissue remodeling, and once that remodeling starts, reversing it becomes exponentially more difficult. The mechanism is disturbingly simple. Oxygen deprivation triggers a cellular stress response. The smooth muscle cells that line the erectile chambers begin to die off. Fibroblasts, the cells responsible for laying down scar tissue, move in to fill the space. Over time, what was once soft, expandable tissue becomes rigid and inelastic. The chambers that once filled with blood can no longer expand fully. The result is not just dysfunction, it's structural loss, measurable physical shrinkage. But here's the question that most men ask when they first learn about this. Why does it happen in the first place? Age is often blamed, but that's only part of the story. The real culprit is something much more specific and much more fixable. It's called endothelial dysfunction. The endothelium is the thin layer of cells that line the inside of blood vessels. It's responsible for regulating blood flow throughout the entire body, including the penile tissue. When the endothelium is healthy, it produces a molecule called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is what signals the blood vessels to relax and expand, allowing blood to rush in. Without it, blood flow is restricted. And without blood flow, there's no erection, no oxygen, no protection from atrophy. What damages the endothelium? Stress, poor diet, lack of exercise, and most importantly, an enzyme called PDE5. This enzyme breaks down nitric oxide, effectively shutting down the body's natural ability to initiate blood flow. When PDE5 levels rise, the endothelium stops functioning properly. The blood vessels remain constricted, the tissue starves, and the cycle of atrophy accelerates. The insidious part is that this damage happens quietly. There's no pain, no sudden alarm, just a gradual decline that most men rationalize away until the problem becomes undeniable. Morning erections become less frequent, firmness decreases, response time slows. And by the time a man realizes something is wrong, the tissue changes are already underway. But here's the critical insight. If the endothelium can be restored, the oxygenation returns. The fibrosis stops progressing, and in some cases, the damage can even begin to reverse. That's the key. It's not about accepting the decline. It's about reactivating the system that was designed to prevent it in the first place. Now, the biochemistry of reactivating your endothelium is fascinating but complex. The good news is that there are new scientific discoveries that address this problem at its root. If you want to understand the deeper science behind this vigor reactivation, I'll leave the link in the description and pinned comment so you can understand better. So, what does the research say actually works? There are 2 natural compounds that have shown real clinical potential in reversing endothelial dysfunction and protecting against tissue atrophy. The first is beetroot extract. Beets are one of the richest natural sources of dietary nitrates. When consumed, these nitrates are converted into nitric oxide in the body. That's the same molecule the endothelium needs to trigger blood flow. Multiple studies have shown that beetroot supplementation can significantly improve vascular function, enhance circulation, and even improve exercise performance. It's not a placebo. It's biochemistry. The mechanism is elegant. Dietary nitrates from beetroot bypass the damaged endothelium entirely. They're absorbed in the gut, converted by bacteria in the mouth, and then delivered systemically as nitric oxide. This floods the penile tissue with the exact signal it needs to dilate blood vessels and restore oxygen flow. In clinical trials, men supplementing with beetroot extract showed measurable improvements in erectile function within just weeks. The tissue began to heal. The cycle of atrophy reversed. The second compound is Tongkat Ali, a root extract traditionally used in Southeast Asian medicine. But modern research has validated its effects. Tongkat Ali has been shown to support healthy testosterone levels, improve libido, and enhance overall male vitality. Testosterone plays a direct role in maintaining the health of penile tissue. When levels drop, so does the body's ability to maintain erections, even during sleep. Tongkat Ali helps restore that hormonal foundation, but testosterone does more than just drive desire. It's anabolic. It supports tissue repair, muscle maintenance, and cellular regeneration. Without adequate testosterone, even if blood flow improves, the tissue lacks the hormonal signal to rebuild itself. Tongkat Ali addresses that deficiency. It works at the level of the hypothalamus and pituitary gland, signaling the body to increase its own natural production of testosterone. It's not synthetic, it's restorative. Together, these 2 compounds address both sides of the equation: blood flow and hormonal support. In theory, a man could reverse the early stages of atrophy simply by consuming these compounds regularly. But here's the problem. The clinical dosages required to actually achieve these effects are extraordinarily high. Science shows that beetroot and Tongkat Ali can reverse this. But here's the catch. To get the clinical dosage required to actually break down the fibrosis, you would need to consume pounds of raw powder every single day. It's biologically possible, but logistically a nightmare. A therapeutic dose of beetroot extract, for example, can require upwards of 5 to 10 grams of concentrated powder per day. That's not a pinch in a smoothie. That's tablespoons. And for Tongkat Ali, the effective range is between 400 and 600 milligrams of standardized extract, taken daily, without fail. Most men try to piece this together themselves. They buy bulk powders. They measure scoops. They mix concoctions. And within 2 weeks they quit. Because it's exhausting, it's expensive, and it tastes awful. That's the gap between knowledge and action. Knowing what works is one thing. Actually being able to do it consistently is another, and that's where most men give up. Not because the science is wrong, but because the execution is unsustainable. So I started looking for a solution that eliminated that friction, something that concentrated these extracts at the right potency, in the right ratios, without requiring a daily ritual of mixing powders and choking down gritty shakes. Most supplements on the market are underdosed, poorly absorbed, or filled with unnecessary fillers. They're designed for marketing, not for results. But there's a new formulation called VigorLong. It was the only one I verified that contains the exact concentration of the specific ingredients needed to actually trigger the endothelium. It combines clinical-grade beetroot extract with standardized Tongkat Ali, plus a few additional cofactors that enhance absorption and bioavailability. It's not magic, it's just proper formulation based on the actual research. What makes it different is the dosage precision. Each serving delivers the amounts that studies have shown to be effective, not the trace amounts you find in grocery store supplements. It's designed specifically for men dealing with the consequences of reduced blood flow and hormonal decline, and because it's in capsule form, there's no prep, no mess, no guesswork, just consistency, which is exactly what the biology requires. I've recommended it to several men who were experiencing exactly what we've been talking about: reduced frequency of erections, concerns about size changes, difficulty maintaining firmness, and the feedback has been striking. Within a few weeks, most of them reported noticeable improvements. Morning erections returned, confidence came back, and more importantly, the fear of permanent damage started to fade. Look, you don't have to live with the fear of permanent atrophy, you just need to get the blood flowing again. VigorLong is the most practical way I've found to do exactly that. I recommended it to several men, and 98% of them are experiencing unbelievable results. I put the direct link to their official website in the description. But be careful, because there are scam pages out there. If you want to try it, make sure it's the official one. Don't wait until the damage is permanent. Check it out and take care of yourself. If this information was valuable to you, please subscribe to the channel. We cover topics like this that most doctors won't talk about openly, but that every man should understand. Your health is not something to be embarrassed about. It's something to protect. Take action today.